Welcome to the Behind the Bits podcast. Your host, Scott Curtis, wants to learn everything he can about stand-up comedy and take you along for the ride. Scott and his guests talk serious about comedy in every episode. Behind the Bits will uncover knowledge from different perspectives on subjects such as writing and performing stand-up comedy, as well as booking shows and the comedy life. If you're thinking about becoming a stand-up comic, already in the comic game, or a comedy nerd, Behind the Bits is the show for you. Now, let's get Behind the Bits.
I've got Cody Webb today. So Cody is a Portland-based stand-up comedian and major content creator. He's currently sitting at 178,000 followers and 8 million likes on his TikTok channel. I looked at just his last few TikToks before we signed on, and he's got 2 million views on one and 1.2 million on another. It's absolute craziness. And that's what I want to talk to him about, as well as his stand-up comedy. And I'm just stoked to talk to him. Let's bring him up right now. It's Cody Webb.
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So the first thing I want to ask, I'm gonna leave the hat a little bit of a mystery until we get to it.
Okay.
The first thing I want to ask is, what came first, the content creation or the comedy?
Stand-up started first. I started doing stand-up officially in about 2018, 2019.
Okay.
I'd done a little bit before, but I started taking it more seriously after I graduated. And then, COVID hit, and I was looking for a way to, entertain myself, do things. Like, I saw other comedians that I knew doing that route, and I thought, that seems like something I could do.
Uh-huh.
So, I tried it out, and I just kept posting, and it kept working. So, that's where we're at.
And there's a little bit of a differentiator between your comedy and your TikToks. You've got a channel dedicated to your stand-up where you post clips, but you also, your TikToks are actual content creation. It's not just clips. You're
right.
You're actually creating something for the masses to consume. And
yeah,
and that's one thing. If a comedian calls themselves a content creator and all they do is cut up their stand-up and put it up, that's not really creation, because you already created the stand-up set and you're just recycling it for
right.
And the actual content creation, that's what inspired me, was what you're doing with the content creation. So I don't know if that's a differentiator that anybody cares about, but that's the way I see it.
Oh no, I definitely differentiate it, because one thing I learned is a lot of with stand up, you generally have you've got a little bit of time to develop a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got more of a captive audience. Like, it's not as easy to leave a comedy show than it is to swipe up on TikTok.
Right.
So with TikTok, you got to grab their attention immediately, and you got to, keep that attention, keep that energy. Whereas with stand up, you can have lulls in it, and you're supposed to have lulls. I have the problem where I'm just like at 100% the whole time, and people are like, tone it down a little bit for part of it. We need a little bit of a break, and then you can go ramp it back up. But with TikTok, because it's the short form sort of thing, you can have it be there that whole time. And I think that's part of why it works really well. And stand up also can do well on TikTok. It's just generally a different kind of crowd. I felt like.
Yeah, it is. It's different. And I think, I watch between the two channels you have, the stand-up channel and your regular channel. I would bet you've got a different type of follower on the stand-up channel versus the creator channel.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that doing this content creation opens up your mind so you can actually write better stand-up from it?
Oh yeah. I've like it's a two-way street. Like a lot of my jokes I write for stand-up, I like do on TikTok, and sometimes stuff that I come up with in the moment while I'm filming. I do on TikTok. It does really well, and I post it in some one of the new bits I've been doing. I've had one of the comedians I know was like, if you haven't done this on stage, you absolutely should. I think this would kill.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I don't think that, but like I don't take everything from TikTok and make it a stand-up routine.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes I do. Sometimes I kind of use TikTok to be like, is this joke good? Sometimes I use stand-up to figure out if a joke's good and then kind of adapt it.
Yeah.
It really depends on it's just another way to get me to write more things.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a lot of comedians use Twitter.
Exactly.
To do that. Whereas, it takes a little bit more thought and preparation to actually put together a 30 or 60 second
absolutely
video. And now, as far as your popularity on TikTok, how is that translated into putting butts in seats at shows?
I am still working on that personally.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is, I'm so that TikTok is not concentrated to one area. It's all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I were to go on tour, I think it would work a little bit better. But, given that at this point, I'm still pretty Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a couple of people come to shows, but it's not a huge number at this point.
Uh-huh.
Just because another thing is with TikTok, it's kind of it's TikTok really wants people to stay on TikTok. That's what the algorithm is there.
Yeah.
Like that, more than any other platform that I've been on, it punishes you for trying to bring people to other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so even doing something like just, trying to promote a podcast, for example, would be somewhat difficult unless I, share, put the video up and I didn't say go and watch it, just be bring to people's attention that it exists.
Yeah. Really, the thing about TikTok and Reels and all that kind of stuff, calls to action are really not what you want to do. That's one thing I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll go into the story about the hat. So ever since I asked you to be on the podcast, I've been paying attention to TikTok and Reels and stuff like that, whereas I normally don't. I'm an old guy, so there's no reason for me to do that. But I really started paying attention, so you inspired me to start creating daily stuff. And
nice.
So what I'm doing is taking it all the way back when I first started looking for ways to promote the podcast, the calls to action, even when you're just posting a picture, is still not the way to go. So I started making my own memes about how bad I am as a podcast host. So I did that, and that created followers on Instagram.
Nice.
That's my jam, is Instagram. And so that actually worked well. And I thought, okay, you're doing it. And I've dabbled in doing videos here and there, but the way you're doing it, you're pretty much daily. So I said, okay, I'm going to put something out daily for a while and see how it goes. So I interview myself. So I got this hat. And then I got this hat. So I just got these today before I was doing this.
Yeah, classic.
And so I'm trying to be a little bit more professional. I'm going to keep the hat off now because I'm just not a hat guy. But yeah, so I'm doing that, and I'm watching. So I'm posting on, and I'm just asking you for advice now because this, I think what you tell me is going to be helpful for everybody that listens. So I do Instagram, I do a separate reel on Facebook, I do TikTok, and I do YouTube Shorts. So far, YouTube Shorts is just killing everything else. I'm doing like 3 times as many views on Shorts. Every once in a while, a Facebook reel will do pretty good. Like I'm getting, and when I say good, it's like 1,200. You know, it's not in the millions or even the tens of thousands like you get. And on my Instagram, the reels, even though my regular posts get quite a bit of attention, the reels are in the hundreds usually. I've got a few one of them for some reason I got 11,000, and then the one after that I got like 300. So it was something happened. And I've also noticed that there's like a shelf life on both the Facebook and the Instagram reels. Like all of a sudden they just stop. And whereas TikTok and YouTube Shorts, they seem to keep trickling in, and then you get these bumps where you go to bed and you wake up and you find out another 100 people watched, and it's a week after you posted it. So so I wanted to get your advice. You know, how did you start attacking the platforms? Because I think you're on all the same platforms I am. Yeah. How did you start attacking them, and what made you decide on really leaning into the TikTok?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is I started on TikTok. When I was doing TikTok originally, I was only focusing on TikTok. Mm-hmm. Just cause, well, yeah, I think at that point, YouTube Shorts was in its infancy. A lot of the other things weren't as big. Like occasionally I would post something, I would cross post something to Instagram, but most of the time I was just focused on TikTok. I just did. Like it seemed like too much work most of the time. Mm-hmm. But lately, you know, more recently, so like probably the past 6 months or so, I've been trying to basically cross post things. And essentially what I did for a lot of the other for most of the platforms, I just started with the exception of Instagram, because like I had somewhat of a following on there already. On a few of them, I just started posting older TikToks, basically just trying to establish what I've already established on TikTok. Yeah. And not all of them, but just the ones that had done relatively well. And, you know, just trying to get a following there. So yeah, why do I still stick to TikTok? Because that's part of it is, you know, that's where I've got the biggest following. So it makes sense to focus on that, like basically make all my content for that and then, you know, get it and then put it somewhere else. And another thing is people on TikTok are nicer to me. That's part of it. So in terms of people being nice to me, it goes TikTok, then Instagram, and then I would say it's probably a tie for a last with Facebook and YouTube. Those can be pretty brutal sometimes. I'm not entirely sure why, but like well, my guess, at least with Facebook, is, and probably Instagram too, because, you know, same company, is that they're more likely to they're showing it to people that will engage with it, but they don't care what kind of engagement it is. If it's engagement, it's engagement. Whereas TikTok, I feel like, tries to make more insular groups. So trying to show it to people that will like it and can, like, they generally don't do hate watching as much. Sometimes you end up on the wrong side of TikTok, but most of the time, if you post something if you post something that you want like a specific group of people to see, that'll generally be how it goes.
Yeah, it feels like TikTok. I would compare it. TikTok is more like Twitch, where Facebook Reels is more like, I don't know, Facebook.
Yeah.
And the thing with TikTok, you're right. The only thing you have to do on TikTok is either watch the videos or people's live feeds. I know they're doing this trivia thing now, but it's to stay on there. When you're on Facebook, you can watch a reel, you can see posts, you can message your friends and all that kind of stuff. And then YouTube's the same way. I mean, you could watch some shorts, you could watch a movie or whatever you want to do. But TikTok is pretty much that audience that is captive, and definitely, I think you can find your tribe there a lot easier than in most of the other places.
Yeah.
I did get a pretty funny comment on one of my shorts on YouTube. Guy said, "Take your boomer humor back to Facebook where it belongs." I liked it.
Yeah. It's good because it rhymes.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought getting any kind of a response was great, and that one especially. That's probably what I would have said when I was his age. So
right.
So when you're doing this content, especially for TikTok, you're putting a lot out there. Are you like recording like 5 or 6 of them at a time? Are you just committing to a certain time during the day you're going to do it? How do you schedule this and make it happen?
So yeah, most of the time what I'll do is, I would say probably like 90% of my TikToks are filmed. I'll have like a Saturday or a Sunday, and I'll just devote several hours to because I'll have like a list of ideas for both. I've got like a separate list for TikTok and for stand up, and then sometimes they'll bleed into each other.
Yeah.
But I'll just go into it, and I'll just be like, I'm just going to make as many, well, not as many, because I still do care about the quality, but I don't want to get, you don't want to get too into like, you're not making a feature film. Like,
yeah.
It's okay to not have the best production value. Especially unless you have your audience has the expectation for that production value. So in general, it's just go make the TikTok, like don't edit it. Like I save the editing for later. I'm just like, all right, I think I've got enough here to work with. And then I move on to the next one. And then sometimes I'll have, depending on how I'm feeling that day, I'll have anywhere from like 6 to 12 TikToks that I can use. So if I'm doing that roughly once a week, that's enough to do it daily. I haven't been doing daily as much recently, just because part of it is I've just been really busy with other things the past couple of weeks. And but most of I'm still able to coast on what I've already got that I just haven't edited yet. And like the occasional just one-off, like I have an idea pops into my head and I've got time, so I'll just make it real quick. And it one of those things where it doesn't require like a costume change or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been surprised that one of them took off, that you just kind of did it as maybe even an afterthought, and you thought, this isn't a great idea, but I'm going to put it out there, and that one takes off, and then you've got one that you absolutely love that you think's the best one you've ever done, and it doesn't do as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say more the second situation than the first. Just by the nature of, if you throw a lot of things at the wall, only some, like it's you're going to get a lot more things that don't stick than stick usually. But I've had ones where it's just like, this is just a silly idea. I don't know if people are going to like be mad at me for this. Just like a very silly idea. And people are like, oh, they really like it. I would say, once you've been in this for long enough, you try and temper your expectations. You have an idea of like your average level of views, like what you would expect for like any video, and then you have videos that you're like, all right, this is doing better, and then like basically it's just like a tier system, and as long as you're hitting that base level, I think you're doing all right most of the time. But sometimes a thing will just flop and you just don't know why.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the time you post it. Sometimes it's, the algorithm because sometimes the algorithm will suppress new things if there's, something controversial going on, because they don't want to get involved. So they'll just promote older TikToks that they know are safe.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it's just bad timing. And other times I've had, videos do well, like completely flop on TikTok, but do well on other platforms, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into that as much because I don't want to have to be making TikTok I don't want to have to be making content for like based on all of these different platforms. Like
right.
I do not have the time to do that really.
Yeah.
And I don't think the returns would be worth it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd need to have like a production team to do something different for each platform.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Do you feel like discerning what content resonates with your viewers on TikTok and the other platforms helps you to understand what your audience in a stand-up show is going to respond to?
I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. I feel like, like that's the thing is I feel like online a lot of the time, at least compared to where I'm at currently in in Portland, you can get away with a little bit more. Like, because I've noticed with Portland audiences, like you can put the offensive part in the punchline, but you can't put it in the setup.
Yeah.
Because people will tense up and just be like, okay, I don't like they just get nervous.
Yeah.
But if you put it in the punchline and they don't expect it, then they'll just kind of involuntarily laugh.
Uh-huh.
And I don't mean like hardcore offensive. I just mean like it just, when you have like this sort of complexion and you say certain things, like even if they're not actually offensive, people will just be they get suspicious.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the time with TikTok, either they'll just scroll away or most of the time you don't get that. I don't feel that nervousness, I guess, from like the comment section, for example.
Uh-huh.
Like, because that's really the only interaction you get as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So I want to make sure I don't forget about this. You've got a joke that there are perfect jokes for different people. And this one was perfect for me. And I didn't write it down verbatim. It's the joke about being suicidal, but no, I'm not going to do it because I put it at the bottom of my list. Yeah. And I don't ever complete stuff. Can you give me that joke? Can you say that joke? And I kind of want to break it down and why I think it's so good.
All right. So do you want, because there's like, that's the thing is the one that blew up is actually the second part of that joke. Do you want the full thing or do you want me just from that part?
Yeah. Just do it from that part.
Okay. So if you are worried about my mental state and you think I'm going to, go home and kill myself, I want you to know I have a foolproof plan to make sure that I don't kill myself. And that is by putting kill myself at the end of my to-do list. Because I know I'm never going to get there. Now, what's to stop me from going out of order? Good question. That's where the autism comes in. You can't go out of order. That's the point of a list. Like, what's next? Are we not going to, we're not going to alphabetize things anymore? We're not going to sort things by shape and color? No, it would be complete anarchy. We can't do that. We got to keep ourselves safe. Yeah.
I love that joke. When I saw it, I was just like, okay, this is the perfect joke, because
Yes.
the perfect joke for you to say,
Right.
because it's deeply personal. It talks about a dark subject, and yet it is so funny that you can commiserate with you and just laugh your ass off at the same time.
Yes.
Is that one? Is that like a killer for you? Is that one that just always works?
It works most of the time. And I have added an extra bit to that joke because, talking about, sometimes audiences do get nervous. They're like, I don't want to, because, that if they're a little uptight, they'll be like, I don't want to laugh at this. I don't want him to think that I'm laughing at his pain.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I've got this tag to it. That's like, some people don't laugh at the joke because they're worried that they're going to encourage my behavior. But you know what actually makes me suicidal? Bombing.
Yeah.
Just saying, if you want me to stay alive, not laughing at that joke is not the way to do it.
Oh, that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
That works 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, if an audience is in a 95% of the time, that joke will work. Yeah. That's a pretty new joke for me. But yeah, I have found that joke works really well.
Yeah. It's absolute comedy gold. And I've never heard anything exactly like it. And that
I would if you have, let me know, because that's plagiarism and I would like to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. It's every once in a while I hear a joke that I really like, and I know that somebody else has done a version of it. And yours, there, I watch a lot of comedy, and I haven't seen anything like it. So yeah, it's good stuff. So as far as your stand-up career, starting right before COVID hit had to be hard. But as far as where you're going now, do you have some, the content creation's going just super well for you. As far as goals to start traveling and that type of thing, are you working on doing that, or do you just want to keep it pretty much regional based?
I would like to start traveling at some point. I don't know if I'm there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep working on my act. I want to, once I'm more consistently getting longer feature sets and headlining sets, then I think I'll be at that point. But right now, I think what's best is just to develop a little bit more before I go out and show everyone else. Because, the stage presence is something I'm still working on. I still need to perfect a little bit, because I can be a little bit uptight when I'm on stage. I'm still working on, loosening up, trying to be more in the moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting that down would be good. And I'll branch out. Like, I'll do shows in Eugene. I've done a little bit in Seattle. Like, I'll look out for shows that are more outside of where I usually go. But I think for now, just focusing on being regional, applying to occasional comedy festivals, all that sort of stuff, I think is good. Because I'm not going in this with the expectation of hitting it big.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't think that's a good attitude to go about it, because you at some point you'll become more focused on becoming famous rather than just making your work the best it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as long as I'm having fun and I'm, doing good and getting shows, I think that I'm fine with that. It would be really cool if this ended up becoming its own thing, but I'm not going to go in it I'm not going to go all in until I'm much more certain that would be a good plan. I'm not as big of a risk taker as some other comedians in that regard. I feel like
So if you're taking notes, folks, this is a comedian who's self-aware about his his own talent and abilities. Something we could all we could all use a dose of once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I understand, like, confidence is also a good thing. Like, you gotta find a good balance there. And, I'm much more on the end of doubting my abilities at some level. And I know I've got, and I'm not saying that to be fake humble. I don't want that to come across. It's just, I know I'm good on social media. That's one thing. That's a particular set of skills. Whereas stand up, it's related, but you need more things. Like, you need to be able to actually interact with the audience. Like, if you go out there with the same energy as TikTok, it's not going to work a lot. Just because, with TikTok, you don't need to pause for laughter.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is convenient for me because I don't have a lot of patience in that regard. But, if you start, talking over the audience's laughter, you're kind of training them to not laugh. And, having kind of basic, like a 2-year hiatus from in-person comedy at that level, and then kind of training myself to be in, like, yeah. And also another thing that with that's very different from TikTok and stand up is, with TikTok, if you bomb, you learn after the fact.
Yeah.
Right. You're not learning as you're telling the joke that they don't like the joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can, like, you don't have to deal with the mental gymnastics of just, like, got to power through this.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, with the silence is a lot more noticeable when you're on stage. And that's honestly, because I did a Zoom comedy during the pandemic quite a bit. And that's honestly the best thing I got from Zoom comedy, was learning to not care about the audience as much.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, no matter how well you do in that circumstance, like, the ceiling is pretty low.
Yeah.
So you gotta, I mean, pay attention to the audience, but at the same time, keep that, like, don't let the audience's lack of reaction hinder your energy level.
Right.
Like, you can adjust, like, you can consciously adjust and be like, all right, they don't want this. Let's see if they prefer this kind of, like, lower energy sort of thing. But don't let it just start tanking. Because that was something that I dealt with in my first year or so of comedy, is if I started bombing, I would instinctually, like, lower the energy, which would make the audience less invested, which would it would just start spiraling.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
I'm actually, that's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
I let one joke that doesn't hit the way I think it should just totally fuck up the rest of the set. And,
yeah.
And that's hard. And the whole stand-up thing is such a balance. I mean, you got to have a certain amount of confidence, but if you have too much confidence that you blame the audience for not laughing, then that's not good. And you have to have enough, you have to be in the moment enough to know that this line of humor is not really working with this audience, so I need to switch gears and go to this set of jokes and stuff like that.
Right.
It's really, and you're doing all those things within a split second. While you're talking, sometimes you're thinking about you're thinking about what's, should I go down this line? Should I keep this one up? Should I go to the next one? And it's really it's difficult.
Oh yeah. It's like, especially for me, like, I am very jealous of the people who can go up on stage and just riff the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, that is, I mean,
too.
Like, I can do that at some level, not at the level of other people that I've seen, but I can do that. But the thing is, I can't do that while also having a plan. right? Like I can do one or the other, but I can't do really both at the same time. Like occasionally I'll riff because, something weird happens or audience reaction or any sort of thing like that. But most of the time I try and stick to like the script because, I come from a theater background. That's where like I learned I learned stage presence. So
yeah,
having that sort of thing, having a script is what I'm most comfortable with. But
yeah.
That's another thing I'm going to be working on is just, learning how to loosen up on that front.
Right. Do you, you've been doing it long enough that you've been able to, kind of immerse yourself into a community. Do you have any, mentors or people who gave you, advice that you're still sticking with today that it has totally worked for you?
I'm not that I can think of. I feel like most of the time people like I honestly can't think of too many comedy mentors. I kind of do my own thing. Like most of the lessons I learn are either me on stage, it's something not working, or it working, or me watching somebody else and being like, oh, okay, that's how you're supposed to do it. Like that's what you want to do. Yeah, I can't really say I've had comedy mentors, and if maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody thinks that they're having a mentor like sort of thing, and if that person's watching right now, I apologize. Yeah. I misread relationships all the time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Please don't take it personally. Just let me know.
Yeah.
But.
And I'm the type of guy, and I'm suffering from a little bit of a shock because I moved from South Bend, Indiana, down to Huntsville, Alabama, and everybody there got me. It was a great community, and I wasn't like close friends with all of them, but we all understood each other and appreciated each other. And down here, I've got like maybe 3 of them that I feel like get me. And the rest of them are still kind of like, we don't know. You're old and we don't know if you're cool or not. And I'm not cool, but on the other hand, I'm cool. I'm cool with you.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just, it's a balancing act. And I've, I'm slowly starting to get more in people's favor, I guess, but just by showing up to their shows and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely a shock to move from some place where you're so comfortable to something totally new where you got to do it all over again.
Yeah.
And I know in South Bend, they looked at me like I was totally nuts when I first started too. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cause I was 52 when I started, and that's a little old, but
yeah. I mean, I don't think there's really an age that I don't really think there's a cutoff, but I feel like if you see somebody going on stage at that age for one of the first few times, you're like, okay, you're a little suspicious.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's true of a lot of people. Cause there are a lot of people who go into comedy who try and go and do open mics who just don't understand that, the jokes you make, like you're going among an audience of strangers. You can't make the same jokes that you would make like with your friends, for example.
Yeah. And
like you need to build that trust
in
order to try and get something like that. Yeah.
And when you get people my age, they do that, or they do jokes that are just so old that it's not their joke, and they're just riffing on stuff that, who knows, Rip Taylor did 40 years ago. And so yeah, it's and a lot of them are up there on a dare, or they lost a bet or something like that. You'll never see them again, but some of them keep trying, and some of them shouldn't.
Right.
A lot of them shouldn't, but yeah, it's interesting dynamic. Well, so we are at the point of the show, my new favorite point of the show, where we riff a couple jokes off each other. So this is called Is This Anything? And I bring a joke. If you didn't bring a joke, that's okay. But
I can grab. I'll grab my notebook. Real
that's
quick.
cool. Yeah, we're just going to workshop a little bit.
All right. 1 sec.
I'm gonna do my comedian hat for this part.
I should have gotten a hat too while I was back there. All right.
And since you're the guest, you get to decide who goes first.
I feel like you can go first. I think
I've always gone first on this one.
Yeah.
And that
makes sense.
And that's totally cool. So this is. I may have done this with somebody before, but I've rewritten it a little bit, condensed it, and it's kind of an extension of a joke I do about doing DoorDash and Grubhub. So, and talking about side hustles. So I'll just do it. One of my side hustles is my podcast. I interview stand-up comedians. I interview stand-up comedians. You probably wouldn't like it. And that's just because they're at a comedy show. A couple years ago, I got a sponsorship from Manscaped. Now, Manscaped got famous for making a trimmer for your balls. They sent me a crate of all their products. It had the ball shaver, the nose trimmer, a hair trimmer, cologne, shampoo, and something called ball toner. And I'll tell you what, the ball toner is still unopened because I think my balls are past toning. I thought I should at least try the ball shaver so I could talk about it on the podcast, and it worked really well. I shaved a perfectly symmetrical circle around the balls area, and it looked pretty good until I faced the mirror, and it looked like the world's saddest glory hole. So that's punchline number one, and I'm deciding between two, and it looked like a crop circle with one lonely dead stalk of corn in the middle. So that's my and that's the end of the joke.
Okay.
So what
I think that might be something. Yeah. I think the thing is when you say like the circle, it's kind of vague what you mean. Like, does it mean like you shave like everything around? Do you like shave like a circle into the sack? Like it's like, so it's hard to picture a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. I'd want to do a little bit of an act out on that. And,
okay.
And so everything up to the stalk.
Right.
In a circle. Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah. And this is a joke where I think the punch is pretty good, but everything before it, I don't feel as good about.
Right. It is a bit long of a setup. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, there is something there. It's just, it needs to be, you need to chisel it down.
Yeah. And I think I need to do it out loud on stage a few times. And I've done it twice, I think, but it was longer before. And and that wasn't good. The punch did okay. I did the crop circle. The first two times I did it, the glory hole's new. That went okay, but everything up until it was like not so good. And I had a comedian come up to me and she said, "You had me, you lost me, you had me, and you lost me."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, such is the way of writing new jokes.
Yeah. All right. What you got for me?
All right, let's see. I think the guy that named passion fruit liked fruit a little bit too much. Like, I'm just saying, we should probably check that guy's hard drive. I don't trust him. Like, I know it's not illegal to stick your dick in fruit, but I feel like that's something that should be public knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go over to your house if you stick your dick in fruit. That's what, or at the very least, I don't want to eat whatever you're serving. And I know you're probably curious, why is it called passion fruit? Well, I looked it up, and the passion in passion fruit comes from the Passion of the Christ. That is, not a joke. It's not, that's genuinely where it came from. Apparently, some random Portuguese missionary noticed that the flower of the passion fruit had 5 petals and thought, this has 5 petals. Jesus had 5 holes in him that time he got murdered. I'll use this flower to show the natives how Christianity works. Clearly, this flower is the only way I can teach the concept of 5. It's the only way I can teach the natives.
So that I like that, and I think you could go back to, but the flower doesn't have anything to do with the fruit. You got the fruit in your hand. There's no flowers, and so how can you even make that stupid line to the 5 wounds if you don't even have the flower in your hand?
Well, I think it's like it's the passion, like the plant is like the passion plant or whatever, and so it's like 'cause it's got the the flower is the passion flower, and then you've got the passion fruit.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, it's definitely original, and you took me where I didn't expect to go because I thought you were done after. Right.
I tend to do that. I tend to add a lot of like, and also.
Yeah.
And I just keep going. I just keep building off of things that you're like, this isn't structurally sound. Why you keep building on this? Yeah. But I just keep going.
But it works. It went 2 different directions and it totally works. And that's I can't give you too many notes on that unless you want to, just say, and if it's because of the flower, why didn't we just call it a passion flower? Right. Yeah. Something like that. A tag like that could maybe work.
Passion flower is less suspicious.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, this was a good one. I really appreciate you doing this because I tell you, I'm really watching you and taking notes. I'm not going to do TikToks like you because we're 2 different people, but I'm just kind of following how you do it and how people respond and kind of gauging my response, the response I get by how well your response is taken. And I know it takes a while to build all this up, but you inspired me, and I'm gonna keep going at it until I don't have anything left to do.
Right.
And I bought the hats, so you're already in. However, you're already in like $40. You gotta stick into this through the end. The funny thing is they were only $5. It came from China, and
okay.
I had to wait a long time for them, but yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. That now was this were these like they just had hats that just said podcast host on them, or was it like you put whatever text?
Yeah, it was a custom. It was a custom thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had to do the embroidery and then they had to ship it. So it took a little while. Yeah.
It was $10. Okay, you're not that invested.
Yeah.
You can give up whatever you want.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I can toss these in the trash anytime and not feel too bad about it. Well, thanks so much for doing the show. It's been really great getting to know you, and I'm a fan, so I'm always watching, and I think that especially the comedy clips I watch, I think you've definitely got something, and have a little bit more confidence, and I think you're a little bit more ready to branch out a little bit than you think you are. So
thank you.
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone a little bit once in a while, and I think it'll do well for you. Where can folks find you? On the TikToks and all the socials.
So you can find me at The Real Cody Webb on most platforms. And then for my stand up on TikTok, you can find me at The Fake Cody Webb. And yeah, that should be pretty much anywhere you can find me. I think on Facebook I'm like Cody Webb Comedy. But other than that, yeah, you can. Everywhere else is going to be at The Real Cody Webb. That's where, and then you can find all my other links. I've got like a link tree on all of them. So if you really just find one and then go through that, and you can find me wherever you want to follow me.
Yeah. And the link tree will be in the show notes, folks. It's very easy to click on it. So,
all right. Yeah. That, even better. Better. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. This has been really fun. It's great to get to know you.
Yeah, it was great to get to know. This was really fun too. I had a good time.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Welcome to BreezeLine, where you'll say ta-ta T-Mobile because we have 99.9% network reliability and they don't. That's right. Time, weather, or even streaming in a basement won't affect our superior service. That's because we have real internet backed by our fiber-powered network. And T-Mobile, well, they just have a 5G cellular network. So for a limited time, find your perfect speed with prices starting at $19.99 a month for 24 months. Terms and conditions apply. Go to breezeline.com to learn more.